Good evening. So welcome everybody to this Ordinary Council meeting for the 29th of May 2018. Welcome to the gallery. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, so the voices and images of those participating in the meeting, including in the gallery, may be captured as a part of this recording. I'd like to start by acknowledging the original custodians of the land we're meeting on tonight, pay respects to elders past and present, and to any descendants who may be here today, and also to mention the fact that on Saturday was the 10th anniversary of the apology to the stolen generation, and there have been events around the Shire marking that, so just want to acknowledge that important event. As councillors, we've all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do I have any apologies and leave of absence? So actually I do. I have Councillor Murdoch, he's not here tonight. Director Mark Florence has taken leave on short notice, so we have Kate Biglin here tonight in Mark's place. However, I was just saying to Kate, given that she didn't get much notice, she may have to take some questions on notice. If that's the case, she'll get back to people accordingly. And any other leaves of absence? No. Any declarations of conflict of interest? So we'll move to open forum, and we have four people with questions tonight. So I might start, I think I'll start with Jonathan Riley. We haven't seen Jonathan at a meeting for quite some time, so welcome back, Jonathan. Jonathan submitted 5 questions, but he's going to pick the 3 that he has chosen for tonight. Anything that isn't answered in the meeting, of course, we'll get back to you anyway. Okay, come to the microphone, Jonathan.
Thank you. Hi everybody. Just in regards to one of those questions, Mayor, I just want to let you know that was a question that I asked maybe 1 or 2 years ago now. I can't remember, just for your information, all right?
What number question is that, Jonathan?
4. Number 4.
Number 4. Okay, so can I make sure this is about the Barnawatha Cemetery wheelie bins?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get, would it be Director Ian Ellis? Would that be your purview? It's about council wheelie bins at the Barnawatha Cemetery. Yeah, okay. We'll take it on notice, and the CEO has just said it'll be followed up. Okay.
So in question 1, in regard to planning procedures used in determining applications in and around Barnawatha, is Council able to explain its processes for allowing particular applications to proceed? For example, and I think you can all see that. And
You've given some examples here.
Thinking that because maybe Mark's not here, it might be taken on notice, is that right?
Yeah, can we take that one on notice, Kate? Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Kate. And just out of the rest of them, did you determine whether any of the other ones are in the same league as that?
Other questions? So your second question is changes in zoning.
Oh, I think I crossed that one out, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The third question, do you want to go through it, Jonathan, or do you want me to just paraphrase it?
Well, I'll read it. Thanks, Mayor. But Barnawatha in recent times has had a footpath constructed from Havelock Street along the western side of the High Street to the Barnawatha Hotel. The hotel has a red line which extends to the inside of the High Street wall. This is from the Liquor Licensing Commission, prohibiting consumption of alcohol at the end of its out in the footpath under the veranda of the hotel. This is also used as a smoking area, as can be seen by the large ashtrays beside the gutter. Members of the public have to walk through and endure this activity, as well as people who decide to partake in a meal or gather for a meeting. This drinking and smoking in a public space goes against community expectations, and particularly those of the late councillor, Mr. Don Chambers. Will council do something about this situation? In this day and age, no other hotel allows this activity to happen.
Yeah, so, Jonathan, there's two parts to that. One is that, you know, what the liquor licensing laws and the state laws allow, and then the other is our own local laws. It's certainly been an issue of concern for people, smoking in public places and alcohol consumption in areas. So can we take that one on notice and get back to you about that particular area? And also thank you for raising the issue, because it is something that's been brought up before, and I think it's something we certainly can look at when we're reviewing our local laws.
And just on that matter, just in regards to, because it was something Dom was pretty passionate about. So has that been something that I've missed? And does it get raised at all still with what Dom was after?
He looked at, if I remember rightly, banning smoking in playgrounds and other areas, and some of that has since been brought in by the state government. So some of what he was wanting had already come into play, but what you're talking about is around the hotel, outside the hotel, and of course that's another issue as well. So certainly it's an issue. I think councillors here have had concerns about smoking in public, but as I say, some of that is the state government's addressed. There hasn't been a ban on smoking, obviously. It's a legal activity. But the Indigo Shire does, and we have our own local laws
for that activity to.
Yeah. So as I say, we'll take that one on notice. We'll check into what is happening at the Barney pub.
Thank you.
And your last question.
And regarding the Barnawatha Structure Plan, the steering group for this is the Barnawatha Development Association, led by a person who is on the Economic Advisory Committee of the Indigo Shire. This, I believe, is not open and transparent to the community as a whole, and I do not think the use of a survey monkey to reach members of the community of Barnawatha was fair and equitable. This was only for Facebook users and people with computers, and also allowed people from outside of the town to make suggestions and comments regarding the Barnawatha Structure Plan. I feel this has been an esoteric technique of conducting a survey. Submission forms were not made available at the community forum on the 26th, and why were there no copies of the draft structure plan supplied to the general public that night?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think we all would all agree that in hindsight we should have made it much clearer that that community forum wasn't actually about discussing the structure plan, that we had two forums organised that I believe have been very well attended to actually look at the structure plan, and there was a bit of confusion around the community forum being a separate thing. So I think we've all had that feedback, and the two meetings for the structure plan, I think there was one on the weekend, Councillor Price and Councillor Shepherd were there, have been very well attended. There's been copies of the plan there. So those meetings are actually absolutely around the structure plan. And as for the input from the person on the committee, I mean, the whole point of doing the in draft form is so that everybody gets a say in these, and all of your opinions and views have been recorded and will be taken into consideration. Do you want to say something, Councillor Shepherd? You're at those forums. Do you want to add anything? Okay. The CEO?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Jonathan and I spoke on Saturday morning. In addition to that Saturday morning session, there's another workshop planned for Thursday night between 5 and 7 on the structure plan. The tricky thing with public consultation is that no one tool works in any case. So what you've got here is a range of activity, and like things like Facebook surveys and things like that. That isn't the only tool you'll choose, but it's one tool and doesn't suit everybody, and we understand that. That's why we'll have a broad spectrum of ways we engage and consult with people. So take on board your comment about SurveyMonkey. Not everyone has Facebook, not everybody has a computer and things like that. So it's just one tool. It's not the only tool that we use to gather feedback and engagement from the community.
But do you think that survey... Sorry, go ahead.
Jonathan, there was also, I know, a couple of sessions at the Barney store, at the post office Saturday morning to try and capture people that were going past as well.
I was
You
aware
might
of that.
not
I was
have been.
actually at the one that was at the...
Oh, okay.
At the...
Yep. With the
That
consultants.
hall called, the
Yep.
football
Yep.
ground.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
But,
So I
you know,
think
there was only half a dozen people there, and I don't think the post office was great.
ideal. Okay, so look,
But
I think
what I was getting at is the survey monkey, like the information that was gathered from that, can we find out what that was so we know how much that contributed to the...
so. Just in terms of what will happen once all of the information's come back from those consultation sessions, then they'll be put together, and the next draft, the reviewed draft, will come out, and all of those comments and things will have been fed into that. In terms of whether people get to see the individual comments and surveys that people put in, CEO, do you want to take that one on notice? It's not normal practice, Jonathan. Usually you just get the draft document back with all of that collated.
I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, if input was brought out from outside of...
Yeah, I understand your concern. Yeah,
okay.
You want to make sure it's from the Barney community. Yeah. So let us take that one on notice, and we'll get back to you on that, because that's a fair point. You've got people putting in that aren't necessarily from your community. And as we said, we try as many different ways as we can to get input, and SurveyMonkey is just one of those approaches. So thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Next question, Robin McLeish.
Thank
Welcome.
you, Mayor and councillors. A brief question tonight.
It's a brief one.
Wodonga Council's been in the news of late, but one that might have been missed, which I think is quite a beneficial move on their part. Wodonga Council has resolved to make councillor briefings open to the public with a 6-to-1 vote in favour of the change. Will Council expand the agenda for the next council meeting to include a recommendation for council briefings to be open to the public to improve the transparency of decision making?
So that is not on the agenda of this council at the moment, so I don't expect it'll be on the next council meeting. It is an issue that we've been discussing, and so I guess those discussions will continue if there's interest from councillors in doing that.
I missed the first part of your comment.
It's
not
not
the agenda of this council
at the moment. No, it's not.
I guess it wasn't on Wodonga Council's agenda either. I would think it would be beneficial if council officers were to establish how and why Wodonga Council have moved to introduce that, so that we are armed when it is raised at the next council meeting.
So my point is, at the moment, it's not on the agenda. It may come up in the next month. It will depend on whether councillors have an appetite to do that. So I can't answer about what's on the agenda for the next meeting. As to whether this issue will come up, we've all seen your interest in it. You've already expressed it in the past. At the moment, we abide by the Local Government Act, which says that assemblies of councillors, which is what a briefing meeting is, can be conducted in confidential. They provide an opportunity for us to ask questions, get information. Like all businesses and all organisations, you have to have some time where you can do in-house business. So whether we then set up another format for that and open the briefings is something that we need to discuss. But we certainly, at this stage, as you rightly say, by Wodonga doing this, it's raised the issue for us to consider as well.
So the driving force for it will be a councillor
It'll be an interest from council.
suggesting that it should be incorporated into an agenda.
Generally. That will come from the public. You've raised it with us.
And that was the thrust of my question.
Okay, thank you.
Will one of our councillors
I can't answer that tonight,
take the
Robin.
opportunity?
We'll have to see.
I'm asking a question. I don't need an answer. I need to see some action.
Okay. Yep. Boyd Collins. Evening, Boyd.
Evening, Mayor and councillors.
Evening, Boyd.
My recent letter to council, it's a question to Indigo Shire Council, to the Mayor. In opening my question to the council at the March meeting, there was no careful consideration of my planning application. No. What involved was a pre-considered pantomime to halt my application. My question is, given that Stanley Rural Community Inc. has handballed their ideals to Indigo Council, is Council contemplating payment or part payment of the $90,000 costs that was handed to SRCI at a recent appeals court hearing?
So the answer is no, Boyd, we're not considering that. No, we're not considering
Good to
that.
hear.
So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
And now we've got a question from Neil Collins. Are you two related?
Slightly, madam, yes, slightly.
Hard to pick. Okay, welcome, Neil.
And thank you, Council and Mayor. My question is Council aware of the disgusting manner in which this anti-water mob are conducting themselves in and around Stanley, with stone throwing, gesturing and painting signs on the road? And what is Council doing about this matter?
Yeah, so we have had notification from Mr Carey about this, expressing his concerns, and we responded to him, and I also offered to meet with him, so I'm waiting to see if he wants to do that. And we've also raised this with the Stanley Inc. people, and they have said that they will ensure that their members get the message that that's not acceptable behaviour. It's certainly the message from Council to say that, you know, whatever your views may be about any issue, that we expect people to treat each other with respect. And that's definitely the expectation that we have of everyone in the Stanley community. So we've made that clear, and we've also, as I say, I've offered to meet with Mr Carey to discuss it further. He said I haven't heard whether he wants to do that, but we're certainly taking it seriously.
Okay, and also on another water matter, why is Council denying the public fresh, clean, pure drinking water when all Council can offer is adulterated, animal and bird contaminated and chemically added dam water for human consumption?
So my understanding is that the water that comes from the mains is not dam water, and that it's actually treated potable water that isn't contaminated. There's also an issue now about plastic contamination in plastic bottled water that's causing concerns for the World Health Organisation. So I guess the real issue is, how do we make sure people have clean drinking water, and that's certainly what our water authorities guarantee at this stage.
Yeah, well, the water for Beechworth and Yakandetta, it does come out, well, Beechworth in particular does come out of a dam. So,
sorry, but it's treated water. It's not raw water.
Adulterated, in other words, yes, with chemicals and everything else.
Yeah, people have a choice whether they choose to drink that water or not.
And that's something that Council is denying the choice of ratepayers and residents.
So, Neil, just to be clear, we're not banning bottled water. People can go and buy bottled water anywhere they like.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to deny people the choice.
But you're
so the next
not
question.
Supporting it. You're not supporting it either.
Next question.
Okay. Given that SRCI is now targeting roads in the Stanley area for non-maintenance, would it be okay for me to add a few roads to that list?
So we don't just do it in a meeting like tonight. If you've got concerns about maintenance or the state of a road, just contact our Director of Infrastructure, ring Ian and let him know what the issues are, and then, of course, they'll be put on our capital works program according to criteria.
That's fine, but SRCI was adamant that Hurdlefat Road was not to attract maintenance funding.
Okay, so we don't maintain our roads according to what someone tells us to do. Well, it's done according to criteria.
Thank you.
If you're concerned,
I would hope so.
Raise it with the Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, and I think that's it. There were some other questions, just to let you know, that came in by email. Under Local Law 3 at the moment, we're not allowed to read those. Those questions will be answered. Everyone will receive a written response from Council, and we are looking at ways, we'll be reviewing the local law to make sure that this is more accessible and people can get their questions read, hopefully, if they're not actually in the room. So we are looking at trying to fix that up. In the meantime, for those that submitted questions, you will receive written answers. We also, of course, have the community forums, and of course you're welcome to come to those and ask those questions again. So that's it for open forum. Thank you everybody for your contributions. Are there any condolences? So item 7, confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. The recommendation is that minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 24th of April 2018 as published on council's website be confirmed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price, do I have a seconder? Oh, Councillor Shepherd. And you don't need to speak to that motion. I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Is there any business arising from the previous minutes? Yes? So, thank you. All right, the question's taken on notice. Councillor Gaffney requested an explanation from the Director of Infrastructure into Tourism Services from the draft budget. So there's been a response from Greg Pinkerton. Do you want to run through that response now?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So the response was printed in the agenda, and basically there's been a reduction in the income, which is in line with what we've seen over a few years, with the income reducing due to less revenue arising out of printed tourism material. And there has been an increase in expenses, and out of that increase, the two large parts of that are a new initiative for a digital excellence program, which is aimed at promoting and further developing council's digital presence in the tourism space, and of course some support for the Great Victorian Bike Ride, which is happening later this year. Yes.
Thank you. All right, so are there any deputations or petitions? None that I've been made aware of. All right, so 10.1 is the April financial report. The recommendation is that Council notes the monthly financial report as at 30th of April 2018. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Trenery. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Goldsworthy?
There's two important highlights within the report that I'd draw your attention to. One is the waste management charge and the other is the completion of the capital works. I think it's important to note, just with the discussion that's occurred, that it's a balanced approach to waste management charge in the Indigo Shire. It's still in deficit if you take into account the last 10 years. With China changing the policy on the acceptance of recycled waste, there will be a financial impact on the budget eventually, and that may well flow into ratepayers in the future. So I think that's an important thing to note. And the other thing is the completion rate within capital works. Whilst we won't get all the things done that we'd like to, it will still turn out pretty well for those that attend the Shire and live in the Shire. We're going to see some great things completed before the end of the year. So well done to the team.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trenery, do you wish to speak to that? I will just... Oh, does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I'll just add a little bit of further information, given that there have been concerns, obviously, about the waste management charge. So just for some clarification, we wanted to recap a couple of key points. One is that our waste management results have varied over the years between a surplus and a deficit, depending on what is required. Some years we have had to put aside large amounts towards rehabilitating the rubbish tips. Over the past 6 years, we have a cumulative deficit of $736,000. The draft budget for the next year predicts a small surplus of about $50,000, or $50,000, sorry, or 1.7% of the total waste management charge. However, given that this is such a fluid situation at the moment, we're waiting to see whether, in fact, that money will be required anyway. So we're just trying to keep people updated as we go along, and that's the latest information I can give you in line with our budget. Okay, so all those in favour for passing the April financial report? Carried, thank you. Item 10.2 are the Council Advisory Committee minutes. The recommendation is that Council receives and notes the resolution of the unconfirmed Advisory Committee minutes and endorses the officer comments. Do I have someone to pass that? Councillor Gaffney, seconder. Councillor Goldsworthy. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor? No? I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried, and obviously they're available on our website. 10.3, Assembly of Councillor Records. The recommendation is that Council accepts the attached Assembly of Councillor Records as per the requirement of the Local Government Act. Do I have someone to pass that motion? Councillor Price, seconder. Councillor Gaffney. Do you want to say anything about that? No? I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 10.4 is the Customer Service Charter. So this is the recommendation that Council endorses the 2018 Customer Service Charter and rescinds the 2013 Customer Service Policy. Do I have someone to move that? Yes, unfortunately, Narelle Hall can't move it, but deserves to. Okay, thank you. Councillor Price, the seconder. Councillor Shepherd. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor? Yep, Councillor Shepherd. Okay. Does anyone wish to speak to this? Yep, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Well, it is important. Our customer service is something that we try and pride ourselves on. We don't always get it right, but we're always trying to update it and do the best we can. I think this shows some direction for the community as to where we're going with it. And certainly we're open to comment. If you think we can do it better, then let us know. But at this stage, this is what we've come up with.
Okay. Any other comments from councillors? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
Just to read the conclusion, the Customer Service Charter will replace the existing 2013 policy. It complies with principles of best practice and reflects an approach agreed on by councillors and staff and outlines the standards expected at Indigo Shire Council. And just to make people aware what the standards for responding to customer requests, requests made in person or phone are same day or next business day. Email requests are within 4 business days. Written requests are within 10 business days, and website or Facebook is same day or next business day. So these are the expectations that you can hold us to.
All right, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And I would like to commend the staff on the amount of work that's been done on this policy and hope that we can live up to it. If any people in the community feel that we're not, please let us know, and we operate on the principle that we are always trying to improve everything we do. So let us know if you feel we haven't met your expectations with that one. All right, so 11.1 is the draft tourism strategy. The recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Indigo Destination Game Changer 2023 tourism strategy and places it on public exhibition and invites community comment for a period of 45 days. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, a seconder. Councillor Shepherd. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor?
So the draft tourism strategy has 4 key pillars that we're looking to improve on. It's in relation to population growth, growing our visitor economy, attracting $50 million in funding for private and public sector investment, and all Indigo Shire townships to achieve a place score measure of 65 or higher by 2023. These are aspirational targets. The strategy itself focuses on 4 key areas being based around our major towns. It may not please everybody, the strategy that we have. We're looking to get best bang for our buck. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this, a lot of community consultation, and this is the last chance that we're asking the community to give us your opinion. It's an attractive document, it's got good content, and with a little bit more polish, it'll be ready to work on. Thank you.
Councillor Shepherd.
Yes, I'd like to encourage people who haven't had an input, and I can't imagine who that might be because There have been a lot of people been involved in this, in creating this, lots of consultation, lots of engagement. But I ask you, if you do have concerns about any of it in here, please put in a submission, because we'd like to hear from you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? So I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. So this tourism strategy will be out now for public comment. Again, we're really, really wanting your input on this. It's so important for our Shire, for all of the different towns and communities in our Shire. And people feel very strongly about tourism, and obviously a very important part of our economic development. And we're trying to get the balance right between heritage, between cycling, food and wine, future new initiatives, as well as honouring the ones that are already there and building on them. So please feel free to let us know whether you think we've got that balance right, and we'll look forward to hearing from everyone over the next 45 days. So the next item is the draft economic development strategy. I need to put the vote, actually.
I need to acknowledge
you
my
need
mistake.
to acknowledge, yes.
I was talking about the strategic aims for the tourism, the economic development, but they still apply for the tourism strategy.
Okay. Well, they do apply, yeah. Well, they do apply, yeah, that's right. Okay, so do you want to sum up, Councillor Goldsworthy, to talk about this strategy? Feel free. All right, well, I'll put the vote. All those in favour of putting this out for comment? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to the draft economic development strategy, and the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft 2018 to 2023 Indigo Shire economic development strategy, places it on public exhibition and invites community comment for a period of 45 days. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd. Seconder is Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Shepherd.
I can understand why you'd be confused about the two, because the two have been coming along together, really, and we've been involved in both of them too. So I can understand why you might have looked at one and thought it was the other. But really, you can't have one strategy without the other. Of course, the economic strategy is hand in hand with the tourism strategy. So they're both going to be out for comment. One of the things that I'm really excited about with this economic strategy is the business engagement. We're suggesting that we, as a priority, we recommend the employment of a business development officer to resource the action relating to business engagement, which I think is a good thing to be coming out of this. You may not agree. You're most welcome to put in your submissions around the economic strategy as well.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
What I said before.
Yeah, good. It's all been recorded. Ms Hall. Anyone else wish to speak to this strategy? Okay, so I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Again, we would like your comments. This is a revised version that's coming back out. So we already received a lot of comment about the first version. We took those on board, we've revised it. I think this is an excellent document, and I'm hoping that those of you that have already had input will review it and see whether you feel that you have had your comments have been included. If not, please resubmit them. But you've got 45 days, and as Councillor Shepherd said, the two are so closely aligned that it's really worth looking at both of them together. They refer to each other in the document, so bit of work for everyone to do, but hopefully it's for a good outcome for the future of Indigo Shire. Item 11.3, Q Springs Water Extraction Monthly Monitoring. The recommendation is that Council notes the Q Springs Water Extraction Facility Monitoring Report content and the action undertaken where required. I beg your pardon. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Trenery. Do you wish to speak to it? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 12.1 is the Plastic Wise Policy. So the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Plastic Wise Policy 2018, places it on public exhibition and invites community comment for a period of 30 days. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Shepherd, do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. All right. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor?
I do, thank you. I was pretty happy for this to just be an internal document that we decide on, really, but I understand that people were talking about it needs to go out to the community so that they can see what we'll be doing. It's really more or less a council strategy, though, about how council is going to conduct themselves, and perhaps be, to some extent, an example to the rest of the community on what best practice could be. And it's going to take a bit of work, but we think it's worth doing. We're trying to show leadership in plastic wise reduction by reducing and eventually eliminating single-use plastic within council operations and at civic events. Plastic-wise groups around the Shire, which you know are very active, have been involved in drafting it. It's gone to the Environment Advisory Committee. They've considered the first draft in October, and now it's come to us, and I agree with it, and I think most people do. The committees, clubs and businesses across the Shire will be encouraged to voluntarily participate, but compliance will not be mandatory outside of council's operations and council-managed events. We can't, at the moment, we're not saying you need to comply, but it would be great if you follow our example. And I know people are concerned about how we're going to get our Chinese food coming to council in the plastic containers. Councillor Gaffney's concerned about that. But I think we're going to get our heads around it. So I think this is a great policy, and I send it out into the Shire for the community to see, and we will come to the next council meeting, and you're most welcome to comment.
So thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price, have you got anything you'd like to add? You reserve your right. Okay. Councillor Goldsworthy.
It is an aspirational document. It is an internal document. We're just looking for public comment. What I would say is in relation to Table 1 for this item, where it says the potential future phase of compliance, and it talks about non-council managed events on council managed land and buildings. That's a way off. It's certainly something that I want to see some more work around before I supported that, and it's only a potential future phase, but it's open for comment, and we'll see what comes back.
Thank you. Councillor Trenary, did you want to comment?
I did have questions in regards to, because there was some concerns obviously about the phase 2, and it's been answered fairly well. There's been concerns in the community in regards to volunteers having to comply and organisations running events on council land as it's stated in this document, but phase 2 I don't think would be implemented by a reasonable council unless it was practical, and so I think their concerns have hopefully been allayed tonight.
Okay, great. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Gaffney.
That's right, thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 41, the second paragraph, line 5, it talks about food containers, which I presume would be Chinese takeaway that Councillor Shepherd mentioned, and it talks about perceived health risks. And I'm just wondering what they are and why are they perceived and not real? I have a further question after that, but...
This is an officer's report, so they're not my words at all. We'd have to ask Jill Croom what the perceived health risks are. But I think you know what the concern is around taking containers is. But you know, look at what's happening at St Monday's, where you know you take your own cup in. Look at where it's happening all around, where you take your own coffee cup in. I mean, we get around it. It's like the old days when we didn't have plastic. We can do it.
So that's just a perceived risk, not a real risk. The other question I have is on page 41, which is regarding the reputational risk for council and talks about council staff. The third sentence says, and that management set a culture of organisational discipline to the policy. I'm just wondering what organisational discipline is and whether they have consulted with the union or Fair Work Australia. Perhaps that's a question for the CEO.
So, yes, CEO, I assume it doesn't mean corporal punishment. Would that be correct?
No, we've stopped whippings, actually.
Yeah, good.
It's a new rule, no whipping of staff anymore. Councillor, look, I can't see where you're referring to, but when we talk about discipline, it's about not so much in the disciplinary sense, but about a mindset, about we're setting a culture with a mindset of adherence to this policy and showing leadership in this space, rather than discipline as in you'll be in trouble through, from that point of view.
They won't get a pay cut or something like that. If you can't find it, CEO, it's on page 41, the third sentence down.
Yes.
Organisational discipline. I've worked in some strange places, and I do know about organisational discipline, but not in local council.
It's more about being disciplined, as in having a single focus and a mindset about compliance and setting leadership in this space.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So, and just to actually clarify a question you did raise, the Victorian Health Department has, I believe, also issued advice that it is okay to take your own containers to have food put into them, and those concerns, which were obviously of great concern to the community, have been addressed at the Health Department level, and so hopefully if people adhere to the right cleanliness standards, etc., it's not an issue. So I will now... Councillor Price, would you like to sum up?
No, I'm the seconder.
Oh, sorry, would you
I'll
like
speak
to
the motion?
speak to the motion?
I notice in this policy that it says that we're showing leadership, but I think it's actually the reverse. I think it's the community that's led the charge on this, and we're just reflecting back what our community are showing to us. So in Rutherglen, I'm seeing that the IGA is about to ban single-use plastic. In a lot of the different places that I'm going to, I'm seeing the Proud to be Plastic-Wise stickers, that they've adapted some of their practices just to make small changes that aren't as scary as you might think, Councillor Gaffney. And they're all working quite well, and I haven't seen any pushback yet from the community. In fact, they're really welcoming it, and I think we're just coming into line with what the community, our local community expectation is, and even broader than that. This is the way that the world is going, so we'll follow.
Okay. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to sum up? All right, so I'll put the recommendation, and again, just to reiterate that this is actually now going out for public comment. So for people that are concerned about what this might mean, you'll have an opportunity to let us know what your thoughts are about this. It'll be out for 30 days before it comes back to council. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And the next item is executive management. There's no reports there. There's no notices of motion. Just very briefly, do councillors have any issues they'd like to quickly report on from any recent activities? Councillor Price.
Just following on from the April meeting, we've met with the superintendent in regards to policing issues in Chiltern and right across the Shire, and there was discussions about a community forum taking place in Chiltern regarding their policing issues. So we're waiting to hear on a date, and we've also discussed with the superintendent having stronger communication links between council and our local police. So that was a very positive response. I'd also like to bring to the community's attention the Indigo North Health are having holding the Future of Chiltern Campus Scenario and Contingency Planning. They're having the release of the final report into that, and there's a community meeting. So I've made all councillors aware, because I think it's a really important thing that will be happening in Chiltern, a really important change or transition, and so I hope that we will get along to that. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to report any updates? I would like to just reiterate for the Beechworth community, there are concerns about the lack of funding in the last budget for Beechworth Secondary College, and there is a community meeting on Wednesday night at 7:30 at Quercus, or the neighbourhood centre. And they're actually asking that it not just be the school community attending, but people from right across the broader community who have concerns about wanting to see Beechworth Secondary College reach the standards that are expected of state schools now. So Wednesday, tomorrow night, 7:30 at Quercus, and it'd be great to see a good turnout there. Okay, so any other issues? All right, thank you, councillors. My diary is there for April. I was on leave for some part of that, so there's not a lot there. And the next item is general business. Do I have any general business for tonight? Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'd just like to acknowledge the results of Wiridge's own Dean Lucas at the Downhill Mountain Biking Cup at Lesing in Croatia on the 22nd of April. Many would know his grandparents, Jeff and Tess Lucas, and his parents, Rex and Kate. Of the 40 competitors that made it through the last day of the elite men's competition, he came third in the world. He's one of a handful of athletes from Australia who's good enough to make it to the World Downhill Mountain Bike Championships. Ollie and Ben Zwar, the two other notable competitors from Yakandanda. Dean's due to compete this weekend at Fort William in Scotland, and I just wish him all the best.
Okay, I think we can send that from all of council. That's fantastic. And congratulations to him. Any other general business? Okay, so I will declare the meeting closed and we'll see you at the June meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance tonight.